Good morning. Oy vey. I'm having technology snafus this morning, but I'm glad that some of you have made it here. I know others are searching vainly. I suspect those of you who are able to chat right now, I suspect you have bookmarked the YouTube channel for the sanctuary, and so you know where to go each Sunday. But there was an issue with the email link in the email we sent out on Friday. I had initially made a mistake and put a link to Dana Bailey's email, and I'd used it in there twice. It was in there once, and it got stuck in the YouTube slot. And Cynthia caught it and said, "Shouldn't that be a YouTube link?" And I said, "Yeah." So I selected it and retyped the right link or pasted it in. But I just basically changed the name of the link, but the direction still went the same place. So well, that's why we're a few minutes late starting this morning. I'm trying to give some time in case some people actually find the right link or find the channel and are able to find their way in here. Boy, I apologize for that. I spent a lot of time this morning getting stuff ready. I worked on adjusting the lighting and I recalibrated the color and the projector. And I thought, wow, everything's going to look great this morning. And then the link was wrong. So the best laid plans of mice and men. But I'm glad you made it here. We're going to have church, whether it's just us or nobody else. We're going to get it done. So I appreciate you making the effort to be here and your patience as technology rears its sometimes ugly head. Announcement-wise, Wednesday night, of course, we will have our regular Zoom chat. We've been having a good time in those, so watch for the email on Wednesday with the link for that. I hope it'll be right. I think it'll be right. I don't usually make the same mistake twice, but we'll see. Hold on. Okay. My wife is just texting me to say it looks good. Good. So you're here, I'm here. Those who aren't here, we'll tell them all about it and how good it was afterwards. You can still find the video after the live chat. It does go onto our channel and stays there, so you can go back and catch up on past sermons if you want. Wednesday night, Zoom. Also, 2 weeks from today, time is getting close. 2 weeks from today is the Drive-By Santa experience. A lot of work is being done behind the scenes on this. A lot of people are contributing their time and effort and money, and it's going to be a wonderful time, a wonderful gift to our community and to our neighborhood. If you're not yet participating in it, you need to contact Lisa or Brandy or Dana, and you should have all of their emails in the email that went out Friday. And this coming Wednesday will be the day when, if you've wrapped some big boxes that we can use for decorating Santa's workshop, or if you have purchased candy to be used in the goodie bags we're going to give out, you can bring those into the church this Wednesday afternoon from 3 to 6. Wednesday, 3 to 6 p.m. We'll be here. The elves will be here, and they'll be collecting the things that you have provided for this special night. All right? I'm sorry, I'm still discombobulated. I hate it when technology goes wrong. But now, some of you have asked, what about Christmas Eve this year? Well, I had certainly hoped that we would be able to have a Christmas Eve service. I thought surely things will be calmed down some by then, that we could at least have a socially distanced Christmas Eve service. But things are just getting worse. And so in good conscience, I couldn't ask you to come here and be with other people that night. But we are going to have a Christmas Eve service time together. And so on Christmas Eve at 6 p.m., we're going to have a candlelight service. And we're going to do it via Zoom so we can see each other's face. Now, what I want you to be ready for on Christmas Eve is to have a candle close to your computer or your phone or your iPad or whatever you use to do Zoom with. Have a candle nearby for each person. We'll have just a brief service together, and then I will ask everyone to turn out their lights, and I will light a candle, and then I will call each of you by name and ask you to light your candle. And then we will begin to see the screen fill up with candlelight. And I think it will still be a meaningful time for us. And we'll at least get the feeling of seeing each other on Christmas Eve and sharing that time together, okay? So Christmas Eve, 6 p.m., we'll be getting the link to you, the Zoom link for you. In the meantime, find the candle that you want to use for that special time. All right. Let me take a deep breath. Let's get to the message. The title of the message is Christmas for a Change. Christmas for a Change. Christmas is really all about change when you think about it. One of my favorite stories about Christmas is not a story that happened to me, but I love this story so much. I first read it maybe 15 years ago on the blog of a guy. I read his blog every day, and I've been reading it for many, many years. He's a writer in Hollywood. And one December, more than 15 years ago, one December, he was having breakfast on a Saturday morning at the Hollywood Ranch Market. Now, the Hollywood Ranch Market is an open-air kind of farmer's market thing, but there are permanent booths there, but it's all open. And there's maybe 40 different restaurants, exotic foods, cute little shops. It's a really cool place, and you can get anything you can imagine to eat is available there, and you can get it, and then there are tables where you can sit, common area. And he said on this Saturday morning, he went and got him a bagel and a cup of coffee, and he made his way to where the tables were. And as he got to one table, he said he saw Mel Torme sitting at another table, reading his paper and drinking coffee. He decided he would not approach Mel Torme, but he just noticed that he was there. So he sat down, Mark sat down and began to enjoy his own breakfast. Well, Mel Torme, many of you may not know this fact, Mel Torme wrote one of the best-loved Christmas songs of all time. In fact, it's just called The Christmas Song. It's a very generic title, but it kind of earns the title because it is sort of the Christmas song. It may be my favorite Christmas song. The Christmas song is the one that starts out, chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Mel Torme, besides being one of the greatest singers of the 20th century, wrote that song. And so if you didn't know that before, it's a good piece of trivia to know. But Mark is sitting there eating his breakfast, and there's a quartet of young people, 2 guys, 2 girls, all dressed in Victorian costumes. And they're making their way through the ranch market, and they're singing Christmas carols. This happens in various places. It happens in Austin. I know some people who do this each December. And they're making their way around singing Christmas carols in the ranch market. And Mark motions to the leader of the group, a kid probably 23 years old, and motions him over. And the kid comes over and says, "Yeah, can I help you?" And Mark says, "You see that man sitting over there?" And the guy says, "Yeah." He says, "Do you know the Christmas song?" And the guy says, "No, I don't think I do." And Mark says, "You know, the chestnuts roasting on an open fire." And the guy said, "Oh, that's called the Christmas song." "Okay, yeah, we know that." And Mark says, "That's the guy who wrote it. He wrote that song, that guy sitting right there." And so the kid gets the other 3 members of his quartet in a little huddle, and they whisper together for a few minutes. And then they stand up and they begin walking slowly towards Mel Torme's table, and they start singing, "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire." And Mel Torme puts his paper down and sits back and smiles and crosses his arms, and he's listening. And people all over the ranch market start to notice now. And they're elbowing each other saying, "Look, that's Mel Torme. He's the guy that wrote that song." And so they're singing the song, and they get to the end of the song, "Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you." And as they get to the end, Mel Torme stands up, and he goes like this. And Mark said he could see the face of the kid who was the leader of the group. He said, "I could see the expression on his face. The kid was thinking, 'Oh no, the little fat man wants to sing.'" And so Mel Torme gives them the sign to keep going. And so they go back to the bridge of the song, and Mel Torme begins to sing with them. Now, Mel Torme, he's known as the Velvet Fog. He has a great, great voice. He wrote this song. He sung it 1,000,000 times. He knows how to sing the melody, but he knows how to sing every harmony. He knows how to sing in between the notes, and he's singing beautifully as this quartet is singing. And now everyone in the Hollywood Ranch Market is standing, watching in awe. And they get to the end, and they end in 5-part harmony. And everybody applauds, and some people are weeping, and everybody is just changed because something magical has just happened. None of them would ever forget that moment. It's become so popular. It's the most popular post on Mark's blog that he's been doing for 20 years, and every December he has to post it again. In fact, he heard a few years later from one of Mel Torme's children, and they said, "Yeah, our dad told us about that, and he was so delighted with what happened that day at the market." Everybody was changed that day. And change is what Christmas is all about. You know, parents often use Christmas as a tool to effect change. They say things like, "You better watch out, you better not cry, you better eat your vegetables, clean up your room, Be good to your sister. They use Christmas as a threat to enforce good behavior. Kind of like churches use the Bible. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But it's true. But changes like that are usually temporary. And if they work for a while, if a kid does toe the line for a while and does act a little better before Christmas, what do you do after Christmas? What threat can you wield after Christmas? Hey, the groundhog is coming soon. You better watch out. Cupid is on his way. No, it doesn't work. So maybe we can scare people sometimes into being good for a while, but that doesn't really change them. It's artificial. We should celebrate Christmas for the change. Going back to that amazing event, who was changed by the events of that first Christmas? Well, the answer is everybody. Take Mary, a young, innocent teenage girl. She is visited by an angel, and the angel tells her an amazing story that she is going to become pregnant and have a baby that will be the Son of God. And she says, how can that even be possible? I'm a virgin. I've never been with a man. How can that be? And the angel says, for God, nothing is impossible. But imagine this young girl telling this story to people afterwards. What a hard sell that must have been to say, I'm pregnant, but it's not the usual way. This child is from God. I'm still a virgin. Who would believe that? How hard it must have been on her to tell the truth as she experienced it. And how hard it was for people to believe her. It was like, when some of us were in high school and a girl would find herself pregnant and she would disappear to visit an aunt somewhere for several months and nobody talked about it. Well, everybody talked about it, but not openly. It was just glossed over. And I wonder if so many people thought Mary should just go away. She shouldn't stay here where everybody knows what's going on. She should hide herself away. But she didn't. She was changed in this moment, and she did what you do when you've experienced a change. She went and she told people. She goes to her cousin Elizabeth's house. Mary doesn't know till she gets to the house. Elizabeth is already pregnant, 6 months pregnant. And the child she is carrying is going to be named John the Baptist. And he will prepare the way for the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Mary is changed, so she goes and she tells. Or take this man, Joseph, a man whose expectations were greatly changed. He heard Mary's story. What would he do? How could he accept it? How could he give credence to such an amazing story? And he too is visited by an angel. And the angel tells him the story, and in some ways it must have broken his heart. Not because he was not going to be the father of his child, but because he must have known what Mary was going to have to experience. The gossip, the tale-telling, the whispers behind their hands of people saying terrible things about her. And he agonized over what he wanted to do because society said, you need to write her off. The wedding should be called off. You should go find somebody else. She is not worthy. But even the angel in this painting, I love the angel even seems to be saying, get out there and go do the right thing. Things have changed. You have changed. Now you need to go and you need to tell people what has happened. When you change, you go and you tell. Well, then an angel appears to a ragtag bunch of shepherds. They were the lowest of the low in societal standings at that point in time. They were out in the fields and they had been there for weeks, and you can imagine what they looked like and what they smelled like and what their language was like. These were the most unkempt of people, and you have to think, this is who God decides to tell about the birth of the Messiah? And an angel appears to these shepherds. Now, none of us know what angels look like. I don't know what they look like. But I do know one thing. Anytime an angel appears to somebody in the Bible, the first thing the angel says is, don't be afraid. Are they terrifying to look at? Are they scary? I don't know. They apparently glow or shine, or light comes out of them some way, and there's something frightening when they appear. And so the first thing they always say is, don't be afraid. I have news for you. And the angel says to the shepherds, on this day, a Savior is born in the city of David, Christ the Lord. And then while they're watching in awe, an angel choir materializes and begins to sing. What do you think that sounded like? What would a chorus of angels sound like? It's just mind-blowing to even try to imagine, because it's got to be far beyond what we could come up with ourselves. They heard this amazing song and saw this amazing vision, and then what did they do? What if they just sat there and said, wow, that was pretty cool? No. Something had changed in them. They had an encounter that changed them. And so they huddled together and they said, let's go see this baby that the angels spoke about. Because when you're changed, you go and you tell. That's what change does. We change anytime we have an encounter with Jesus. And then we have to go. We have to go and we have to tell on the way and when we get there. So the shepherds went, they worshiped, and then what? They told everybody they met, because encounters with the Messiah will always change a person. You know, I learn all the time that there are people who would come to our church, who would be part of the sanctuary, if they only knew about it. And when I first became the pastor here, I thought, all we need is a good sign. We'll get a good, nice sign, put it out there, and everybody will know, and we'll fill the place up. Or all they need is a good sermon every Sunday, and we'll fill the place up. And you know what? We didn't fill the place up. And I'm convinced the reason is not because of the quality of what goes on inside our church. I'm convinced the reason it's not filled is that we don't tell people. If you're not going and you're not telling, have you even been changed? Maybe you need to go back to step one and make sure you've had an encounter with Jesus. Because if you had, you need to go and you need to tell. Nobody will ever know if you don't tell. Well, Mike, we're in quarantine right now. I can't invite somebody to go to church. Really? Our friend Chloe Johnson, every week she shares the link for this Sunday morning broadcast with friends of hers. She emails them the link and tells them, be sure and watch the sanctuary this Sunday morning. And several of them do. She's helping expand our reach, even though we can't come together physically right now. Thank you so much, Chloe, for continuing to spread the good news. That's what all of us are supposed to be doing, to be telling however we can, in whatever method we have to adapt to because of our circumstances. We need to be telling how people can learn more about God, how people can enrich their relationship with Jesus. Another group of people who were changed. A group of scholars who spent every clear evening studying astronomy and mapping out the stars and the paths that they took. And in one night, they see a star that was not there before. A star that never existed on anybody's map. Imagine how excited they were. Was it a comet? Was it a new planet? These rich, smart, prestigious men, what did they do when they saw this thing change? They saddled up and they went. Change, go. And as they traveled, they would tell people, we're following this star because we've seen a sign that a new king is going to be born in the east, and we're following the star to find the place where he is born. And they come to Jerusalem, and Herod hears about these extremely wise, wealthy men and sends for them and says, what are you doing here? And they say, we're looking for the new king. We've seen his star, and we're heading to find him. And Herod says, when you find him, come back and give me his address, because I want to go worship him too. Well, that's just a plain lie. What he wanted to do was kill the newborn child, the newborn king. And so, again, an angel visits the wise men and says, don't go back by way of Herod. Go back home a different way after they have met the baby Jesus. They were changed, and they went, and they told. But it wasn't just human beings who were changed on that night. The angels must have known that the Messiah was going to be sent to earth, and they surely must have thought God was going to do something spectacular, that the skies would be split with a blinding light, and Jesus would descend on a chariot drawn by a white stallion carrying a jewel scepter and wearing a crown, and millions of adoring worshipers would drop to their knees at the sight. But no. Instead, God chooses the simplest, humblest way of bringing somebody into the world. Not in a palace, but in a stinky stable. We know from the story of Lucifer that angels have the ability to second guess God, to say, well, why don't we do it this way? And I bet some of the angels must have thought, this is what we've been waiting centuries for? To place a baby in a stable? This is it? But then it happens, and they get into formation, and they give an impromptu concert in the middle of nowhere. Not for the news media, not for the scholars, not for articulate scribes who could write down every detail. For a group of illiterate shepherds, they do this grand performance. Everybody changed that night. And you know what? I think even God changed. Look at this verse from 2 Corinthians. It says, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich. Many people have remarked upon the difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. The fearsome God of the Old Testament, who was constantly smiting people and judging people and threatening to wipe people off the face of the earth, now all of a sudden he's a loving, forgiving, accepting Father who wants people to just love one another. Even God changed as a result of Jesus' entrance into the world. You know, after the story of Jesus, one of the best loved Christmas stories of all is called A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And it's the story of a man with a very biblical name, Ebenezer Scrooge. And Scrooge is a terrible person, a mean, stingy, hateful person. And during the course of one night, he is visited by his past. He's visited by his present, and he's visited by a vision of his future. And as a result, Ebenezer Scrooge is scared straight. He It's just like a mom telling a child, you better watch out. You better behave. Or it's like George Bailey when Clarence the Angel shows him what Bedford Falls would look like if he had never been alive. He gets a vision of an alternate future and it changes him. But imagine the story of the Christmas Carol and Ebenezer Scrooge getting these three visions and making a change. Imagine that story if Charles Dickens showed up in the middle of the story and said, I created you, Ebenezer Scrooge. I can make you do anything I want you to do. What if the Creator appeared in the story? Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened. God intercedes in the story of mankind and says, here is love. Here is what I want you to experience. The Creator appeared in the midst of the story. If we have really been changed, if we have really encountered Jesus, it will change us. And if we have really been changed, we're going to go and we are going to tell. See, the word gospel means good news, not bad news, not news to shuffle our feet and keep to ourselves, not news to bury in a box in a treasure or stick up in the closet somewhere. Good news is to be shared. This, my friends, is the formula for Christmas. You change, you go, and then you tell.